Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So it's just been announced that Meta, Mark Zuckerberg's company, they are cracking down on people who speak out in defense of women's sports on their platform. They are cracking down on people who believe in sex-based rights rather than identity, who believe that women should have their own spaces, and those spaces should not be infringed upon simply because a man identifies as a woman. They don't want people talking about this sort of thing on their platform, and those who do will be censored. I mean, this isn't nothing new, but now they're actually admitting it and saying that they're going to write it into their policies. This comes soon after Mark Zuckerberg essentially admitted to Facebook interfering in our elections by suppressing information that the American voter would probably have benefited from having access to.
Like, there was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York
we
Post.
had that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. I mean, basically, the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have, if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely...
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. But I mean, basically, a lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. Obviously this is a hyper-political issue, so depending on what side of the political spectrum, you either think we didn't censor it enough or censored it way too much, but we weren't sort of as black and white.
So he came out and admitted that, and some people say that he was showing signs of regret, but apparently nothing much has changed. According to Riley Gaines, this stemmed from a particular post, an exchange between a male who identifies as a woman in a women's bathroom being confronted by a female, saying that, you don't belong in here.
What are you doing?
Going to the bathroom.
Why are you in the girls' bathroom?
I'm a trans girl.
But you're not a girl.
Oh, we're doing one of these.
Yeah.
Interesting. Never had this before. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah, I pay a lot of money to be safe in the bathroom.
Me too. Excuse me. Rude.
Do you think that's okay?
So, of course, under the new changes to Title IX, the woman in this video, the female, she could be accused of harassment and bullying. And this person believes, I identify as a woman, I'm a girl, so I have the right to be in the women's bathroom. And if you object to that, you could be the one who finds yourself in trouble. So we're discussing these things on social media. Some platforms are more friendly than others. Obviously on X, we're allowed to discuss these things. But on Facebook, apparently not. And it's only going to get worse. So Riley Gaines said, breaking. Meta is considering a policy change to censor speech on protecting women's sports and spaces. This is the video that set them off. Censorship is antithetical to free speech. This is setting precedents for Kamala's America. So Meta is considering monumental policy change to ban speech promoting women's sports and spaces. So Meta's Oversight Board, which makes binding decisions on what content should be allowed on Facebook and Instagram, has announced it may ban posts, one likely affiliated with Independent Women's Forum. and recommended new policies that could prohibit referring to trans-identifying males as men. With almost 4 billion active users worldwide, Meta's potential censorship of speech advocating sex-based rights on its enormous platforms threatens the end of a nationwide debate with enormous consequences for women and for truth. IWF's legal advocacy arm, Independent Women's Law Center, which fights for the rights of women as equal to, not interchangeable with, men, is driving public comments to a new Meta Oversight Board case. The announcement by Meta comes in response to 2 posts that call out the erasure of women's single-sex spaces. The first video was likely taken by WIF ambassador Peyton McNabb, expressing discomfort with a trans-identifying male in the women's bathroom. So Peyton McNabb was the one filming that video. This is a young lady who ended up injured long-term because she competed against a trans-identifying male in volleyball. We've seen the video of her getting injured, getting knocked out cold after this male athlete hit the ball so hard, it knocked her out cold and she had to be rushed to hospital.
For those of you that don't know, about 2 years ago, I was severely injured in a high school volleyball game by a male athlete on the opposing team. I played for North Sudan. I'm from Murphy, North Carolina, so way out west, but it still is happening in our state. The hit was so severe from this boy that I was knocked unconscious, lying in a fencing position for about 30 seconds. And that's just how the body reacts to a brain injury. So my coaches and my athletic director, they didn't know what was going on with me. They were trying to wake me up, and then the trainer on the opposing team, when I finally came to, he said, "Do you know what just happened to you?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, that boy on y'all's team just hit me in the face." And I don't think he was ready for that response, so he quickly got me off the court. He did one little finger test on me and said I was all good and could go back into play. Thankfully, my coaches would not let that happen because later on we found out that I had a concussion, a permanent whiplash, and a brain bleed. Those injuries come with a lot of things. I have partial paralysis on my right side, vision impairment, memory loss, cognitive issues, and the list just goes on. My doctors, they don't know if I'll ever be the same that I was before the accident. And, that's just so unfair because it was 100% avoidable, and only my rights have been more important than a man's feelings to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association.
And not only does she have to deal with that, she has to see trans-identified males in her bathroom on college campuses. So she's an ambassador for the WIF. The other features a male winning a women's athletics competition without universal applause from the audience. Probably a track meet from Oregon. If the Oversight Board decides to ban these videos, this will mean that calling trans-identifying males men and disapproving of males in women's spaces qualify as bullying and harassment. This is a direct infringement upon free speech, because if you express your objection to these things, you will be punished, you will be censored. So they're using these 2 cases to consider changes to Meta's bullying and harassment community standard. While today, misgendering is permitted, as is general disapproval of trans-identifying males in women's sports or spaces, the Oversight Board policy recommendation could crush this already small breathing room for speakers who wish to opine that sex is binary and immutable. So May Melman, she said, she's the Independent Women's Law Center Director. If Facebook and Instagram censor content about males winning women's awards or males entering women's private spaces because the approved truth is that these males are women, the consequences are limitless. Not only will women be left without public advocacy, a founding principle of our nation, but this approved truth will obscure actual truth. Yeah, that's what they want. Men and women exist as biologically distinct from each other, and each is worthy exactly how they were born. Tell Meta's Oversight Board to preserve the honest and necessary speech before it's too late. Riley Gaines said, "The stakes could not be higher if truthful, real-life discussions about biological sex are banned from Meta. The uniqueness of womanhood, not to mention the progress of women, will be eroded. A speech prohibitive policy would cripple any large-scale movement to protect women's sports, domestic abuse shelters, prisons, or overnight camps. But censoring the truth has consequences far beyond this. Threatening the reality of sex works to dissolve the very fabric of our society.
When I was Attorney General, I learned that the California Department of Corrections, which was a client of mine, I didn't get to choose my clients.
Right, a client of the Attorney General.
A client of the Attorney General,
Right.
of the Office of Attorney General, that they were standing in the way of surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. And there was a specific case. And when I learned about the case, I worked behind the scenes to not only make sure that that transgender woman got the services she was deserving. So it wasn't only about that case. I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired and need. And I believe it was not only, I know it was historic in California, but I believe actually it may have been one of the first, if not the first in the country, where I pushed for that policy in a Department of Corrections.
And Peter McNabb says, I can't imagine a world in which women must cheer men dominating women's sports and entering our most vulnerable spaces. I was permanently injured by a trans-identifying male playing on the women's volleyball team. So I felt surprised and exposed to encounter a male in the women's bathroom. I should be allowed to express discomfort and share my story. Meta's Oversight Board has a huge decision before it. Can women and our allies advocate for ourselves? So they're now calling for people to comment and post their objection to this proposed change in policy. Now, I stopped going on Meta or Facebook a long time ago because of the censorship that I noticed on that platform. So if it gets any worse than that, then it's really not going to help the platform anyway. So anybody who's against this needs to make their voice heard. So post comments letting them know that you object to this. So apparently they're considering this policy change. So if they get a lot of people commenting and objecting to these proposed changes, then maybe they would reconsider and just leave things as they are, which, you know, isn't that great to begin with. Meta is a confusing company. The CEO pretends to have regrets and a new way of thinking, but the policies here don't show that at all. I will never, ever vote for a party that thought it was a good idea to put males in women's prisons. Why do people still use Facebook? I'm sick of people saying they hate Facebook, but use it for business or whatever. BS, stop using it. They hate free speech. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.